So therefore the quest, just for those who just came, I'll go back on my story a little bit. So when I started this journey, for me there was no problem in understanding the Raj Yoga meditation, if you will, that is taught by the Brahma Kumaris, and I started practicing it quite fervently right away. But when I tried to explain this to many of my medical colleagues, my seniors, my teachers, they wanted more scientific perspective to it, as time went by. And so I started diving deeper and deeper into it, and there is a lot to learn for myself. And every time I went deep into science, I found that actually my practice of meditation was getting stronger, because I didn't realize for myself that I had a very scientific bent of mind too, and understanding why and how something works actually helps you make better use of it. So anyways, a few years back I stumbled upon quantum physics, and I initially ignored it. I thought it makes no sense for me to go deep into this, but as I read a little bit, I realized that quantum physics is probably the most advanced state of science or physics at this time. It is as far as physics can ever go before it actually turns into spirituality. So in a way, we can call it as a segue towards spirituality. So as promised, I will talk about quantum physics. If I see that I'm losing a lot of you, then I'll go back to something simpler. Yeah, but so let me start by sharing with you the journey of physics itself. So for a long time, physics was dominated by what we call as Newtonian physics, the classical physics, the physics of the external physical world. And in this, the fundamental thing was that matter and consciousness are two separate things, and there is no effect of consciousness on matter. But over time it was realized that that's actually not true. Yeah, and this whole concept of reality, what is reality and what is not, and how we can influence reality, and we do that anyways on a regular basis. But to be able to understand this, the influence, the profound influence we have on reality can actually help us make the changes consciously to our world the way we want the change to happen. So anyways, going now into quantum physics. Our brother here, gentleman, asked what is quantum. So what really it means is that quantum is a pocket of energy, a smallest unit, if you will, of energy is quantum. So around the turn of 19th century, some very modern, the most modern aligned physicists, if you will, like Niels Bohr, Schrödinger, and Max Planck, and even Albert Einstein, were trying to understand how the physics of these subatomic particles function. And that's where they stumbled upon what we now call as quantum physics. So let me help you understand what this is all about. So if you see, let's take any structure. Let's see if it is this, yeah? What is it made up of? Yeah, this is matter, but what is it made up of? It's made up of molecules. Yeah? And each molecule is made up of atoms. Each atom is made up of subatomic particles like protons and neutrons and electrons. And then there are smaller particles below that too. What they found when they were trying to go into the subatomic world, that the classical physics that they had so far built the entire world of physics on was falling apart. So the first observation was that in this structure, for example, say there are 1 million molecules that it is made up of. If you see the distance between the molecules, that's quite a bit. Yeah. So say 1 million molecules, the molecules are small, very small. There's a lot of distance between each molecule. And then inside the molecule, so now you blow this molecule up and you see the atoms. Between the atoms, the space is lot, a huge space. In fact, if you take all the molecules and club them together, the space that all the molecules will occupy is a very small fraction of the space that's between the molecules. Alright, so far so good. When you go into the molecule, the atoms, again the atom size is so small that it is merely a fraction of the space that exists between the atoms. When you go inside the atom, the size of the subatomic particles is also so tiny that it's a very small fraction of the space between the subatomic particles. So if by some way we could club all the particles together, yeah, all the particles together in one space, and the space between the particles on the other hand, they found that these particles occupy 0.00000000, you can go on for quite a while, 1%, yeah? 0.0000, that tiny fraction of the entire object. And rest, all of it, space, 99.9999999, go on for quite a while, that much is just space. So this structure that you're seeing, which you believe is reality, yeah, I'm holding, yeah, coaster or whatever, yeah, in my hand, it's real. But it's 99.9999999% just space. So what is just space is what you say is yours. Yeah. Don't we fight over small things? Doesn't that change your perspective right away? Isn't that interesting? What they found next was when they looked at each of these particles, the subatomic particles, they would go in and out of existence as they are watching them. So they would be looking at it and you see a particle, and next moment it doesn't exist. In other words, it becomes just information. Even the particle, the 0.000001% matter particles, truly exists as just information, just energy. So this is just energy. This, which you say is mine, doesn't even exist. It's just pure information. The reason why this is very important is not just about physical matter like this, but body that we see is made up of millions and billions of molecules. Yeah. And then each molecule has atoms. Each atom has subatomic particles. Again, if you take this body, 99.9999999% is just space. 0.00000001% is particles. And that too goes in and out of existence. So you too are just points of energy. Make sense? From spiritual point of view, we know that if you ask one of these mystics or yogis or even in Brahma Kumaris, we say there is this body and there's a soul. And you are a soul. Yeah? The body that you see in the mirror is not who you really are. That is what we think is reality, but what is reality is far beyond what we think is reality. Yeah. So, you, as you understand, and not just you, every matter in the whole universe, the entire matter, all the people on this planet, all of us are merely information, really energy, really souls. You see? Now, at the external surface, everything seems distinct. Yeah. This thing seems distinct from the candle. Candle seems distinct from the pot here with the flowers and or whatever leaves and so on and so forth. And this looks different from the table. But if you go into the molecular structure, the molecules look alike. Or maybe there could be some difference. The molecules, the atoms of all of this look alike. Neutron of a tree or a table or this body cannot be distinguished. We are alike. You, me, everyone is alike. And if you go even deeper, we are all information. This is the quantum field that they talk about. The important thing here to understand is, when you understand this, is that we that get so stuck many times with our physical possessions, our bodies, and these bodies and the physical possessions really don't exist. So what are we going after? That's the first thing. Matter doesn't really exist, so why does it matter? Clear? So even the house that you're so obsessed with, the car, yeah, the diamond ring, that, yeah, all of it doesn't really exist. So whether it belongs to you or it has been taken away from you, what's the big deal? It doesn't even exist, right? The second thing is that there is really no distinction between us. We all coalesce, if you will, into one quantum field. One field which Einstein wanted to call it as one unified field. So we are all one. We are part of one quantum field. What do we constantly feel? You versus me. They versus us. We are better than others. But we are all part of one. So this is where in quantum physics we call it as the particle-wave duality. So each particle, these subatomic particles, truly exists as waves of information, as waves of possibilities. It'll get clearer as it goes. Right now it may not be making that much sense. So you, me, all of us truly exists as merely waves of infinite possibilities. Right? So far so good. Hold on to this understanding. I am still being able to keep you with me, right? Yeah, I haven't lost you yet completely. No, all right. Good. All right. So let's understand, let's go a little deeper. There is a very famous experiment that was done in US, because the entire quantum physics really came from Europe. Most of these physicists were European physicists. But something was also happening in the US, and there was this very famous scientist called as Young, Thomas Young, and he did a very interesting experiment called as a double slit experiment. Yeah, because to be able to understand quantum physics, one of the biggest challenge that people were having, the scientists were having, was first of all with light, whether light exists as wave or light exists as particle. Now, right away, if I ask you, what does light exist as? You'll say, clearly it is a wave. Yeah, what's the big deal? But there were many different phenomena which couldn't be explained by the light as the wave. And one of which was photoelectric effect, which was the main thing that got Nobel Prize for Albert Einstein. And so when he was looking at this, there was no way to explain this unless we look at light as a particle, and particle would mean the smallest particle, if you will, of light is called as photon. Yeah. So anyways, they were trying to do this experiment. So in this experiment, let's understand this. It's very important because this has a lot of relevance to our day-to-day life too. Yeah, and I'll explain to that. I'll correlate these two. So in this experiment, he put in, say, a cardboard partition, something like that has two slits, yeah, two small windows. And there's a light source here, and there's a screen here. The light will pass through the slits and show up on the screen. Normally, if you have such a structure, two slits like this, light source here, what will you see on the screen? The two slits, right? As simple as that. So far so good, yeah. But when he took a special gun that would fire light in its smallest particle, photon, through this. Yeah? Now, first thing to understand is that if light behaves as a particle, it would either go through one or the other slit, and if you keep sending a lot of photons, one after the other, or together, eventually half will go through one slit, half will go through other slit, and you'll see these two slits on the screen. Yeah? They found, very interestingly, that there was no two slits. Instead, they saw what is called as an interference pattern. Interference pattern is when something behaves as a wave. So, for example, you can do this if you like to soak yourself in a bathtub. Yeah, some of you probably do. So, if you put that kind of slit in the water and you shake the water on this side, on the other side you will see that the waves will break into several small as they come out of the slit. The interesting thing is that the broken waves will then interfere with each other and therefore will create an interference pattern. So he found that when photons were fired, which are particles, right? Yeah, that has been proved. Light behaved as an interference pattern. That means a wave. So he didn't see two slits. He saw the interference pattern. It's very interesting. Yeah, so in other words, light was behaving as a wave. Great. He said, let me look at the slit and let me put a camera there to see how's this happening. Is the photon breaking into two, going through each slit, interfering with itself and creating the interference pattern, or the photons are going through individual but somehow are interfering with each other in some way? So he put in a camera there to see it. And as soon as you put a camera to something, that means you're assuming that there is a particle that you're trying to look at. So then light or photons started behaving like a particle. So immediately on the screen, what was the pattern now? Not the interference pattern, but the double slit. He switched off the camera. Again, it went to the interference pattern. So in other words, when there is no observer watching, light behaved as a wave. When there was an observer watching, light behaved as a particle. Now next he even did this experiment where he fired one photon at a time. So then for sure these photons can't interfere with each other. If you're sending hundreds of thousands of photons together, yes, they may be somehow interacting with each other. Said one at a time. They found still there was a wave-like pattern. So either the photons are splitting into two, going through each of these slits and somehow interfering with itself, yeah, or the photon knew how the next photon is going to behave and somehow talked to the previous photon and the photon that has already left, and somehow work among themselves to create that interference pattern. Yeah. So far so good, huh? Nobody was really sure what is going on. Now you think of it as you're observing, yeah, its behavior is changing. So there was yet another experiment where he continued more and more just to understand the weirdness of this, in which he kept the camera on, yeah, as it was passing through, or actually, let me take that back. He switched off the camera as the photons were passing through the slit, but before the photons reached the screen, he switched the camera on. Yeah? So if he's not observing, if the camera is not on, let me ask you, how should light behave? Interference pattern, a wave, right? Yeah? So the photon had already passed through the slit, yeah? But had not reached the screen. But the camera was switched on at that time. What happened? Yeah, the observer effect happened and the photon changed into a particle form. You see? This is the wave-particle duality, or matter-consciousness duality, or the body-soul duality. To understand this, that the observer has a very intricate role in the behavior of matter. Is something which was never understood before, which ancient mystics already understood it, but science had never understood that. Now you think of it, let me bring this to our common day-to-day life. Say if I look at something as good, yeah, or I look at something as bad, how I am looking at it, could that have an effect on the behavior of that object or the person? Yes. That's what quantum physics has helped us understand. You see, when the observer is watching, there's one observer who is watching the slit with the camera, is behaving as a particle. It's not watching, it's behaving as a wave. So, and I am looking at somebody as a physical being. or when I am observing someone else as a spiritual being, based on how I am looking at them, the behavior of that person changes. Yeah? It makes sense so far? Now let me take you to yet another. I'm going to try to stitch all these together. For now it may seem as I'm talking about discrete phenomena, but I'll stitch these all together. There's something called as quantum superposition. Yeah? This is a concept where they found that these subatomic particles, take say a neutron, in the quantum world, they would exist, each particle would sometimes, they found that would exist in various different places, in different shapes and sizes at the same time. Yeah? It's not two different particles, it's not three different particles. It's the same particle that is existing in different locations, in different shapes, in different sizes. How weird would that be, right? But that's the truth of the matter. In other words, what they found was that all of matter, not just particle, yeah, because particle is, that subatomic particle is what creates the physical world, right? Yeah, we have talked about it. But this, each particle, and therefore entire matter, exists as a wave of infinite possibilities. Every moment. That then collapses into a particle of experience as you observe it. Yeah, makes sense for a moment, yeah? A wave of possibilities collapses into a particle of existence or particle of experience. How I'm saying this is because when these scientists were looking at it, that they found that these particles would exist in different locations, but as soon as they would try to do mathematical calculations on this, find that it would collapse to one place. That particle would collapse to one place, and one shape, and one size. Similarly, now to bring it to the spiritual perspective, each one of us exists as infinite possibilities right now and at all times. The possibility that we choose to manifest is the possibility that becomes the experience and therefore the reality for all of us. Is everybody with me still? Haven't lost you all? I'll make it easy. In other words, each one of us exists as the most capable, the most elevated, the kindest, the most compassionate, the best human being we could ever be. And each one of us also exists as the most hopeless, the most incapable, the least kind, the most demonic person who can ever be. And infinite possibilities between the two.
Yes.
We all exist. Right now. If you understand, from quantum superposition, each one of us exists as infinite possibilities from the best to the worst human being ever at the same time. choice you make in this moment is what manifests as reality for you. Makes sense? So when you say, I am good for nothing, yeah. You say that? Thank you. There's some of us say that. Yeah? Nobody loves me.
Yeah, there are times when we all have this feeling.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so when we have that,
Yeah.
we are manifesting that reality for ourselves. And just as we manifest the reality that we choose for ourselves, we also manifest the reality of everything around us based on what we choose. You see? And in simplest terms, like this living room, if you like certain colors, you will choose those colors. If you like red colored sofas or brown colored tables or whatever, then, and if there are white colored sofas and tables, you're going to somehow start getting rid of them and try to bring in those colors. You manifest the choice, yeah, that you want in your life. But to understand this, that if, say, for example, now I want to go into this very important thing, how others also begin to reflect or manifest the reality that you choose for them. Not necessarily for themselves, but for you. You know, people say each one's world is different. Yeah, each one's universe is different. On one hand, in science, they talk about multiverse universe or multi-dimensional universe. And truly speaking, if you think of it, each one's world is created by how you perceive it to be. Yeah. Now, your perception is like a fingerprint. Your perception is going to be different from every other person's perception on this earth. And therefore your world is going to be different from everybody else's world. So what manifests in your world is going to be different from what manifests in other person's world. And what manifests in your world is what you are actually inviting into your world. Yeah? By your choice. Yeah? Now, let's take more examples. And a simple example would be, say a problem is coming to you, like a situation comes to you. Yeah. Now this situation exists in infinite possibilities, from a blessing, the biggest blessing on the earth for you, versus the biggest curse, and everything in between. Yeah, infinite shades. The option that you choose is what begins to manifest as your reality. I'm saying this again and again. This repetition of words is so that it sinks in deep inside your heart and mind. If you choose this to be 80% as a blessing, 20% as a curse, that's what it becomes for you. Another person could take this same situation, yeah, and he would take it as 20% blessing, 80% curse. That's what it will manifest to him. A blessing for one becomes a curse for another. Who is creating the blessing? Who is creating the curse? We are. We are the ones who create our own reality. We are actually reality creating machines. It's very important to understand. Now I'll take another example. So say I'm sitting here.
Is this like a virtual reality for
Why
every
not?
one of us?
Why not? It could be.
Yeah.
It depends how you look at it.
Yeah.
And truly it is. What is reality? Yeah, that's a topic in itself. How do you know that you're not dreaming the whole thing right now?
That's true.
How do you even know that I'm sitting here or you all are sitting here? It could be all in your dreams. Yeah, it could be in my dreams.
It's all
Yeah.
an illusion.
It could all be an illusion. Who knows? And really it is. Yeah, but we'll go there in another time. Because that's a topic in
That
itself.
is why we are doing video recording.
Okay, fine. All right, so now think of it. I'm sitting here. Say two of you. Let's say two of you are sitting right in front of me. Yeah? May I know your name? Yeah?
Juanita.
Anita.
Juanita.
Juanita. All right, wonderful. So say Juanita looks at me and says, "Oh, this guy looks like a crook." Right. Let's for a moment. Oh, and say Michelle says, "Oh, this guy looks like an angel."
Oh.
Think of it. Yeah, it's just an example. Yeah, or you can switch it if that's feeling too bad. All right. So you look at me as an angel. You're looking at me as a crook. All right. So whatever. All right. So now what will happen? It's so interesting. I exist as an angel and a crook, and infinite possibilities in between at the same time. I will manifest to you in the way you perceive me to be, and I'll manifest to you in the way you perceive me to be. So I will become a crook for you, or other way around, angel for you, and a crook for you. Is that making sense?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah? See, this is why it's so important to keep our consciousness, or keep the way we perceive things very clear. Because we are the ones creating our reality. Yeah.
So this is a perception or an actual, observation that changes matter in you? I didn't think we had that ability. Or is it just our perception? This guy's, a crook, and then I start seeing things that the angel, oh no, I see angel. You know what I'm saying? Is it just a perception? How does the
Very good.
what's one more?
The perception changes the behavior. Now, if we move from quantum physics to even, say, statistics, yeah, there is something called as Hawthorne effect. Have you heard of that? No? Hawthorne is a town close to Chicago. Long back, there was a big mill there where efficiency was pretty low. So they wanted to do something to improve the efficiency of the workers there. So they said, okay, we're going to do a study. And in this study, we are not going to do any intervention. The only thing that we're going to do is to install cameras to be able to observe how you all functioned. When you come in, when you leave, how many breaks you take, how long are the breaks, what do you do in between breaks, and so on and so forth. Just by those installation of cameras, just by trying to observe the behavior, what happened? The behavior changed. The efficiency went up. They had to do nothing. In positive psychology, we also call it as the self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah? When you say, today I'm going to have an accident, today I'm going to have an accident. You end up with an accident. Why? You created your reality. That person is going to harm me. I know that person is out to harm me. And that person actually ends up harming you. And what happens, it's not magical thinking. This is what happened earlier, I used to feel, I didn't really understand this self-fulfilling prophecy. And I thought it's all magical thinking, but it's not. It's not a fairy tale thing. happens is, the missing link is the behavior. Our behavior gets transmitted. The beauty is, if you understand, everything is interconnected through the quantum field. We talked about it in the beginning. That's why I started with that. The matter, molecules, atoms, subatomic, and then there's the quantum field. One field that really unites all of us. So our behavior gets transmitted through the quantum field to everything and everywhere around us. Yeah, that's why you see this when there's a snake or say a wild animal. Oh, that animal is going to harm me. What happens? That fear factor that gets created is what gets transmitted to the animal, and the animal actually ends up attacking us. For some people who do not see it as, or may not even know that it's a wild animal, yeah, you hear that all the time, that this person didn't know that it is a wolf and brought this dog, I thought it's a dog, and that wolf didn't do anything to the person, yeah? You see?
Yes.
The reason why I'm saying all this is because even in medicine, there is a whole lot of this effect that we see. This Hawthorne effect has become so important in medicine, and we call this as the placebo effect. Yeah, you've heard of that, placebo effect? What does placebo mean? It's a pill that looks like the original medicine, but has nothing really in it. It's probably a sugar pill, it probably is water and salt or something like that. And when the person who believes that it's the real medicine takes it, even that pill, yeah, that starts to work. Yeah. Our consciousness changes the behavior of even that pill. How in the world can that be? And I can share with you such interesting examples. So about this placebo effect. So there was once a young guy who, at one time in America, depression had become a big deal. It still is. Yeah, it still is. In fact, it's sad to say, but almost 60-65% of the American population has some form of depression. Yeah, and 80% of those people are on Xanax, yeah, and some of these medicines. Yeah. But anyway, so there was a time when we didn't have enough good medicines, and there was a lot of research happening that was funded by NIH and all that. So there was this new molecule that had come in market, and this young boy who had tried several different medicines and nothing had really worked for him. All right. So he was put on that medicine. So within a week, 2 weeks, he started feeling great. His depression had gone away. He was just on the top of the world. So he thought that, let me call my girlfriend, he had broken up with her because of his depression and so on. And he said, let me try to mend the ways, maybe we can have a good time and all. So he calls her, but, within few minutes they end up arguing, and he gets very upset. And he slams the phone down. He has this big box of his medicines for the next 2 weeks. He takes them out, pops all of them. But he does that, and within few minutes he repents it. Because, I'm going to die. So he runs out, knocks on his neighbor's door. The neighbor comes out and take me to the ER. I'm going to die. I took these medicines. He goes to the ER. So the doctors don't know what medicine it is. So they don't know what antidote to give. So they somehow try to contact the investigators. They call them and find out what's the medicine. Oh, actually, he didn't get any medicine. Yeah, he was getting the placebo. Because in research, we have to give 50% of the patients have to get placebo and 50% have to get the correct medicine. Yeah. So he was getting the placebo. Now, meanwhile, his blood pressure is very low. He's sweating profusely. His heart rate is high. It's almost like he's about to die. So, yeah. And so they go to him and say, you know what? You didn't get the medicine. It's placebo. He said, no, not possible. My depression went away and so on and so forth. And no, we checked. And oh, really? and he felt great. He went home. Yeah, all good. His blood pressure got better. Everything was okay. You see, and this is a real story. This is a real story. Each one of these stories is real. There's another story of a person who was bitten by a snake. He was initially told that that was a poison snake, and he started manifesting all the same side effects or those effects of the poisonous snake until they actually caught the snake and found it doesn't have them. I said, okay, I'm doing great. I'll go home to... Yeah. More stories. I'll tell you one more. Very interesting. There was a time when... so there are two stories about cancer now, yeah? So one story is about a person who was diagnosed with some tumors on the liver. And the doctors looked at it and did the CT scan and so on and so forth and said, hey, you know what? You probably won't live too long. Yeah, it's probably 2 months that you will live. Usually what happens is, for any physicians here? Yeah. Usually, wonderful. Usually liver tumors are rarely wonderful. Yeah, but that's good enough. That's good enough. So liver tumors are usually secondary, which means that it has come from some other organ, and usually that's the last or advanced stage. Yeah, primary tumors of the liver are very rare. So he's told you're going to live for 2 months. So poor guy, he dies in 2 months. Yeah. So when they do the autopsy, they found that he didn't have cancer. These were benign tumors.
Oh. Oops.
You see? But I know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to make this into a laughing thing, but the truth of the matter is, he died not because of the tumor.
Because of the thoughts.
Because of the
Thoughts, negative.
Yes.
I just want to say, I'm finishing a book about placebos by a medical doctor, and she was saying there was a person with multiple personalities, and one of the personalities believed he was allergic to orange juice and different foods, and I think I was telling Michelle about this. And
yeah,
then,
you did. It's fascinating.
And then when he took the foods as that personality who believed he was allergic to them, his body would swell, hives, but when the other personality came forward, the body completely normalized.
See.
So different mindsets, same physical body. Interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting.
I'd love to hear what you
I
have
just
to say.
wanted to know, was that gentleman able to sue the doctor?
Maybe his family did. Maybe probably will. Yeah. I don't know.
Died.
But and there are many more stories like this. I mean, I can go on and on and on. But the important thing in all of this is that we are the ones who create a reality. We are doing it subconsciously, unconsciously anyways. We can now change this to make this into a conscious effort. So when we are observing others, or we are observing ourselves, we can be our own observer. See, what happens is, why do we go like this? Our day goes this way, right? Like a roller coaster. One day we feel great, the other day we don't feel good about ourselves. And so if you look at it, if you kind of go deeper into this, you'll see that somebody says something, oh, you're looking so good. And we feel great, think of it. And we go to work and, the secretary doesn't even look at you. You smile and she does like this and walks away. How does it make you feel the whole day? See, what's happening is we are going by other people's observations of us. And that's what we manifest as our reality. We constantly manifest as the reality which others are thinking.
Vibrations.
Yes,
These are
are
vibrations.
vibrations, sure. Of what they perceive us to be is what we end up manifesting for them. So we go from this to this to this to this throughout the day. The interesting thing is that we can learn how to observe ourselves. So how would you want to observe yourself is the question right now. Think of it. You exist, quantum superposition. Remember this term. You exist as the most elevated, the most benevolent, the kindest, the most loving person ever. And you exist as the worst even ever do. Right now. Yes or no? Yeah? Yeah? Some demonic thoughts coming in your mind right now as I say this? Yeah, I'm sure. So, what do you want to manifest? It's your choice. So far, so good. Alright. There's also one other concept that I want to take us into. How much time more do we have? 6:38? A little bit? Lot of time.
Lots of time.
There's something called as quantum entanglement. Have you heard of that? No? Yeah, alright. It's a little difficult concept to understand, but what it really means is that when two of these particles somehow, as they came into existence, they got connected. It's somehow as if they got entangled. They get entangled. That they found that. Now, don't ask me how they really proved it. Yeah, but it's all proven. It's not. It's honestly, it's not hypothetical. If they took these particles and spread them far apart would mean that millions of light years away. Light year, one light year. Does anybody understand what a light year is? Light year means the distance that light travels in 1 year. Yeah? And light travels at?
186,000
per second.
per second, miles per second.
I think it's more than that.
More than
Yeah?
1,086,000 something.
Correct.
Oh,
It's
1 million.
yes.
It's
I
a
think
lot
it's
of
3
decisions.
lakh kilometers or something. Yeah, and then in miles, it's a huge number. And per second. Now you multiply by 60 per minute, you multiply by another 60 per hour, multiply by 24 hours for a day, multiply by 365. That's quite a bit of distance. And many times of that, so multiple light years away, these two particles, they found when you move one, you spin one, the other spins at the same time in the same direction. Now, how could this information have traveled? Because nothing really can travel faster than the speed of light. So how was information passed? It's because the two things. One, this entanglement that we are in everything really is connected at the quantum field level. We are all one. Yeah. On the surface, we think we are whites and blacks and brown and green and whatever, rich and poor and a doctor and engineer and tall and short and blue eyes and black eyes and whatever. But at the bottom, we are all one, connected. But the second very important thing which it tells us, that probably time doesn't exist. Probably even distance doesn't exist. Now let me take you from here to Einstein's theory of relativity. Before that even, if you know about classical physics, there are 3 things which were always considered as absolute. Does anybody know what were those 3 things? Time, distance,
Energy.
and mass.
Mass.
Yeah? So in other words, 1 hour will be 1 hour no matter what. Yeah. 1 mile would be 1 mile no matter what. 1 kilogram mass, not weight. 1 kilogram mass, because when you say weight, that's gravity included, but mass is mass, and so that is gravity excluded, will be anywhere the same. But now think of it, even practically, that theory fails, that these 3 are absolute. Yeah. So, for example, if you're very tired and I ask you to run for a mile, yeah, that will be like 100 miles for you. Yeah. For somebody who's really active, really healthy, that 1 mile is like nothing. Yeah. For somebody who's a real bodybuilder, yeah, who goes to the gym to work out every day, 1 kilogram would be nothing. He might even use his pinky finger to lift it. Right? For a baby, it could kill the baby. Yeah? Or time in the morning when you are to get ready to work, to go to work, how time flies, and when you, right? That 1 hour, 2 hours, and suddenly, oh, 6 o'clock, oh, 6:30, oh, 7. Oh, it was 5 minutes back, 6:30. How did it become 7 o'clock now? Yeah? Time flies like crazy. And when you have really nothing much to do, you're taking it easy, time seems to spread. And that's exactly what really has been found. In the quantum field, if you look at they call it as the Planck time, they find that it's the shortest period of time that can ever be measured, and in that time, they find that time actually stops. There is no time. So time is also merely a figment of our imagination. You see? Time, distance are all figments of our imagination. So what we constantly think and believe in the physical world as pure realities, now we are understanding it's not really. Yeah? And we somehow create constraints for ourselves based on these physical realities that we see. Sometimes for you, clearly you were able to let go of those physical constraints and are here right now. Some of you may have traveled 45 minutes, 50 minutes, maybe even an hour, and that hour didn't seem anything to you. For many people, doing something good, even going to work, sometimes, oh, it's too far, I won't go there. Or you have two doctors, one is a very good doctor an hour away, and an ordinary doctor close by. No, I won't go there to the good doctor. 1 hour is too much, 2 hours is too much. Sometimes we play games with ourselves, but really, you understand that all of these are so relative. It is relative based on what?
Our perception.
Our perception. So, coming back to the same thing that I said earlier, we are constantly, unconsciously, subconsciously perceiving things in a way that it becomes more difficult for us to do things productively. Now we can use the same thing once we understand the quantum field and quantum physics. We can use the same information to actually become productive by changing the way we perceive. Yeah? We have made ourselves unhealthy by our perception. We can make ourselves healthy by changing our perception. Great? Yeah? I'll tell you a little bit more about reality so that it makes a little bit more sense as you go from here. Long back, as I had started going to clinics, in the second, third year you start going to the clinics, and there was a cardiologist who was very, very good, honestly very good, and he would have his stethoscope. It was a very high quality stethoscope, and he would make us listen to heart sounds. Not for you, but in general, when we say heart sounds, how many heart sounds do you have? Yeah. What do you hear? What do you know about a heart sound? How does it hear? How does it sound? Heartbeat. Yeah, it's just one beat, right, that we hear. No? How many are there?
S1, S2, S3, S4.
Oh yeah, there could be 4, right? Yeah. It's actually at least there is lub-dub, 2 sounds. Yeah, at least 2 sounds, and there could be many more. In fact, when the heart valves go bad, then you could have different sounds between the first and second, or between the second and the first. You could have it in the earlier part, later part, mid part, you could have, and so on and so forth. Now you think of it, he told us one sentence which I will never forget all my life. What the eyes What the mind doesn't know,
Doesn't exist.
what the mind doesn't know, the eyes don't see and the ears don't hear.
Correct.
What the mind doesn't know, the eyes don't see, the ears don't hear. So as soon as now you know there are two hard sounds, maybe when you go and listen to your or somebody else's, you'll now be able to hear. Before that you didn't know, so you'll only hear one sound. So is the reality one sound, or is the reality two sounds? Or S3, S4, four sounds, yeah? Which sometimes may or may not exist, but yeah, it's more than that. What is reality? There is another very good example for all of this to understand reality. Long back, when Columbus was going around his craziness, trying to find places to conquer, so accidentally he reached a place, an island, where there were some tribes, and there was a shaman, who was, as the ships were approaching towards the island, this shaman was standing at the beach, and he had never seen clipper ships. So because he had never seen clipper ships, and he had never known that they exist, he couldn't see them coming. These huge ships. All he could see was these big waves coming onto the beach. And he couldn't understand what is the origin of these big waves. And he couldn't see. But he was a smart guy. So one day he comes to the beach, he sees this. Second day he comes there, he sees this. And third day, eventually, he was able to see these ships. So he goes to the village and to the tribe and tells everybody, and everybody now knows about it. But you see, you understand, because he didn't know the clipper ships, he had never seen one. Even when they were standing right in front of him, he couldn't see them. So what is reality? To be able to see that clipper ship is reality, or not be able to see? Or does the clipper ship even exist if you're not seeing it? Yeah, think about it. More. There is another tribe in Africa that has the ability to perceive various shades of green. Because in their language, they have many different names for different shades of green. Because look at nature. Which color is the most prominent, most common? It's green. Yeah. Not in cities now, but in general in nature, green. And which color is the least common? Can anybody guess? I'm sure you won't be able to guess. But let me
Not black.
Not black.
Red, blue,
Not
white,
blue. Who said blue? Yeah, blue.
Sky?
There is very little blue in the entire nature. Sky is not blue. That's a perception. That's an illusion. It is because of the light getting diffracted and it appears blue. Water, is water blue?
No.
It's because of the reflection of the sky. But sky is also not blue. So there's really no blue. Very little. Yeah? So the truth of the matter, I'm sorry, that's the truth of the matter, yeah? But, so in their tribe, in their language, they don't have a name for blue. And they have multiple names for different shades of green. So this gentleman, this scientist goes there to the tribe and he creates two figures in which he has these different boxes of green and different, all of them are one color, one shade of green. There's one box which is slightly, very slightly different from the others. Yeah? And then he has another picture where he has all the same shades of green and one box of blue. Yeah? If I give you that first one which has that slightly different shade of green in one box, you won't be able to know. We won't be able to know. They were able to know right away. On the other hand, blue is something you'll be able to know right away because of our illusion, right? everything is blue. So right away, but they could not recognize that blue. They could not point to that. They said all are green. There was this blue, they ignored that blue, said all are green. Whereas they could do this. Think of it right now in this moment, each one of us is being bombarded by a few billion bits of information. Every second. Few billion bits of information from outside the world, all that you're looking at, this, that, all even from your body, inside your body, the cloth touching the skin, and what you're hearing, what you're smelling, what you're tasting, all that, every minute or every second, this much of information is coming. But we process only a few thousand bits of information. Rest is ignored. Now you tell me, what is reality? Those billion bits of information or only what you perceive? Yeah.
Just we want to pick what we want to pick.
Yes, that's what we do. So you give one picture, one scene to 100 people. 100 people will have their own perception of that. They will pick only what they have been trained to perceive, or whatever they have trained themselves to perceive. So if you, just a simple example, my boss many times, he would come to me all red and he would say, those people there, they're talking about me. They're talking about you. Of course not, they're not talking about you, they have better things to talk about. They're not going to talk about you. No, I'm sure, they're conspiring there. Yeah? Yes, and he's all red and he's sweating and everything. Yeah? He's using that information, perceiving something different and making it into his reality. See how we change it. If somebody doesn't smile at us, what do we say?
They're grumpy.
Or we are no good. Yeah? We constantly do that, subconsciously. Alright, one person maybe doesn't smile at us, we may not get affected. Say 10 people, consecutive people. Yeah? How our day changes.
Feel bad about us.
So we are doing that unconsciously anyways. Now we can change that completely consciously.
For headache remedy, you take Tylenol, and within 5 minutes, the headache is gone. Well, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah?
That Tylenol has to disintegrate in the body.
Correct.
It has to go in the bloodstream.
Yeah?
It has to go to the site.
Yeah?
And then you get the relief.
So true.
But
Exactly.
within 5 minutes, so you got the relief.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So now you think about it, our body has everything that is needed. On one hand, to understand that everything that it needs to heal, we have it already. All the chemicals, yeah, we have it anyways to heal ourselves. Why do we need something from outside to start the process? We can start the process ourselves.
Because we can't see ourselves, so we are getting that help.
So we can make
Yeah,
that happen now.
We can't perceive it ourselves, so we are going somebody else to.
But we can make
Yeah.
that happen now. So we don't need Tylenol really. Think about it. Yeah?
But meditate.
We can think of it. This is a Tylenol going into my mouth and it's not Tylenol. Can your headache will be gone? Yeah.
It's all thoughts.
It's all thoughts. Yeah.
How much different is the particle of sound versus light?
So, really speaking here, thank you. The question is how much different is a particle of sound versus particle of light? Now, we don't know. The dual nature, if you will, of light and everything is, on one hand, is it a wave, is it a particle? So, if you think of it, everything exists as wave of possibilities. Whether it's light, whether it's sound, whether it is this table, whether it is me, whether it's you, whether it's your car, whether it's your house. Everything exists as a wave of infinite possibilities. It just collapses to become a structure of experience based on how and what we perceive it to be. Yeah? I'll give you one more example, if that makes sense. A pen. You look at a pen. For all of you, for all of us, since we are educated, as soon as we see this pen, we'll say it's a pen. For somebody who's totally uneducated, for that person, what will it be? Maybe something to clean his ears.
Stick.
Yeah.
Some stick.
Yeah, something like that. For a dog, what will it be? Something to chew, right? So now you tell me, what is it really? Is it a stick? Is it a pen? Or is it a toy? It depends on how you perceive it.
We have trained ourselves to
Look at it as
look at it
that.
as a
Yeah. So all the negative, now what I'm trying to get at and what I want to leave you all with, all the negative that we see in the world,
is what we are trained. Yeah.
that's what we have been trained to see it as negative. It doesn't exist as negative. It is manifesting itself as negative because we perceive it to be negative. You simply have to change your perception. Yeah, in Brahma Kumaris, what do we say? When we change, the world changes.
We think positive, everything is positive. It's thought.
Thank you.
Change your thoughts, change your world.
Change your reality.
As simple as that. I can end here, I can go on, but I think that's enough for now. Yeah.
Beautiful,
Yeah. Any questions? Any more questions?
So how do we get to that level of thinking positive when we are so, since we are growing up, we haven't got to that level, like you
Correct.
negative than positive.
Now we are moving away from quantum physics. Yeah. The practical aspect. The most important thing is repetition. That's one thing. But before that also, the more important thing is belief. First we have to change our beliefs.
And faith.
Yeah. So belief or faith, how you want to call it, is your conscious choice. As soon as you change your belief, your world changes. Because your beliefs create your thoughts. Your thoughts create the energy for the reality to manifest. So you have to first change your beliefs. Now, it is not easy to change your beliefs either. It takes time. And that's where repetition helps.
So patience is required.
Sure, patience is another important aspect. But repetition, let me come to this. Now, when, may I know your name, please?
Rita.
Rita. So when you were born, I'm good, thank you. Do I look at no, I'm sorry, thank you, appreciate it, I'm good. No, I'm good. So think of it, when you were born, how were you born? You were born as nameless, truly genderless, religionless, yeah, professionless, beliefless, yeah, yeah, familyless, everything, yeah. All these were taught to you. They would, yeah, this Rita, your name is Rita, 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 24 hours, 365 days. Yeah, constantly. Yeah, oh, you are a male, you are a female. Oh, males, they play with guns and trucks and cars. Oh, females, you play with Barbie dolls. Yeah, constantly. Oh, you're black. You have this, this, this. Oh, you're white. You do this, this, this. Oh, you're Hindu. You do this, this, this. Oh, you're a Muslim. You do this, this, this. That's how you have been taught. The moment you want to do something different, no, 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 you've got to do this. Repetition again and again and again is what has made you who you are. All you have to do is to change first the belief and then keep repeating. As simple as that. That's what we do in Brahma Kumaris.
Yeah.
I am a soul. I am energy. I am a wave of infinite possibilities. How about you start saying that? I am a wave of infinite possibilities. I can be whoever and whatever I choose to be in this moment. Think of it, quantum superposition. You can be Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, Robin, or what else?
Is it just creative?
Second,
It's a new one.
Yeah.
It's a creative.
Yeah.
Batman.
yeah, you can be all of those right now. The only thing that is stopping you from being that is yourself.
And to change your belief, you have to, experiment with it,
Oh,
and,
sure.
and
Thank you.
challenge it and experiment
Oh,
it, and then,
Thank you.
change it.
Thank you. Appreciate. Yeah. As simple,
There's a very practical, like you can say these beliefs, but there's this idea that there's like 23 or 24 emotions, okay? And you go from anger on up. So it's hard to go from anger to completely ecstatic, like, you know what I'm saying? So you work your way, if you look online to see the 23 emotions, and then you look for the next better feeling thought,
Sure.
and the next, and then you can bring in what you're saying, and it really solidifies. But if you try to go from anger to, I can be whatever I want, that's too big for our, what we've
Sure.
been taught.
Sure.
So there's a kind of a practical way to get there step by step. And if you practice that, then what he's saying does become your reality.
You're welcome to. For us, the thing is, for me, I came into this very young, and my slate was relatively clean. So it became easier. In today's world, I honestly, and especially in the West, there's too much of baggage that people carry. That's the truth of the matter. Yeah, for us, when I came into this, all I could think of was football and studies. Yeah, and that's all. I mean, honestly. Yeah, and the third maxim would be that in class for school, or how to trouble the girls. Yeah, how to, and we taught them to be nuisance. The troublemakers, and we would, how to, keep them away, and that's all. We had no other thought, nothing. Honestly, I'm telling you, we had very little baggage as we grew up. And in the West, it's very different. So it may take time. For us, when we were introduced to Brahma Kumaris, the first thing was just take this into the opposite reaction, opposite emotion. If you feel anger, change it to love. And for us, that was very easy to experience. Love. So please, if you customize it for yourself. If you want to take baby steps, please do so. But again, see, what I invite you all to do today is, I heard you, pardon me, but I heard you say it becomes difficult for us to go from here to there. It's again your belief.
Yes.
True.
Yeah.
True. But, right, it's so ingrained though,
It's so
to
ingrained.
go from 23 to 1, because we're so ingrained, we learn how to do it by going, to
Good.
dismantle what we've been taught.
Good, but now I'm giving you a different, one second, I'll come to you in a new paradigm of understanding. That you can actually go from here to there, to wherever you want.
No doubt, no doubt.
You have the capacity, you have the potential to be whoever, whatever. In other words, you can go from here to be Superman, Spider-Man, Batman without having to go through the steps at all. You can be anything and everything you want to be right now. So what is happening, what I'm working with myself is, at no point do I want to create even an iota's doubt that I cannot do it.
I like that.
Please.
Yeah, but these are all words which are really interesting, because perception is a word that I've been really hanging on for years, and you're absolutely correct about that. But this is language,
Yeah.
and these are all words. And the fact of the matter is, when you look at the quantum physics, the spiritual part of us is, we are what we are. There's not good, there's not bad, so understanding that,
Perfect.
understanding that it's not bad or good, we are energy, we are one, we are existence, it's not good or bad. It just
Beautiful.
is.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's the crux of the matter. And we manifest ourselves based on our perception. We end up manifesting ourselves as good and bad. Truly, I mean, there's no good or bad. We are just pure consciousness. We are pure existence. And based on our perceptions again, and based on our beliefs again, we end up manifesting ourselves as less than pure and perfect. Yeah, agreed? Did I sum it up right?
Perfect.
Thank you. No, but you helped me. You helped me actually. Thank you very much. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, please, everybody say whatever you want to. I want this to be an interactive session.
In 1992, I was living in Miami, Florida, and someone introduced me to the Brahma Kumaris. And at the time, I had cancer. And I was just sort of like, I really didn't know what was next. And so I had the doctors on that one side that were just giving me all kinds of statistics and
We love that.
blah, blah, blah. It wasn't positive.
Yep, thank you.
And so
I agree.
it was a very real experience, and so here it was, and it was so interesting to observe it as the person who was the patient.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I was going to the Brahma Kumaris every chance I had, from sometimes more than once a day, because what I was learning and in the meditation, I was just getting like a full prescription of how I could perceive it all differently from God.
But yeah.
And so that over here was so loud in this year that I had to go with that.
Yeah.
And so 27 years later, it has been, and the doctors, I go for a checkup just to keep them happy, but I don't do most of what they wanted me to do at the time, and I feel so much happier. And the biggest message that came through meditation in all those hours and hours and hours spent at the Miami Center was for me to say to myself as much as I could, I am happy, healthy, strong, and free.
Yeah.
Every cell is well.
Beautiful.
So was it really cancer? Did you really have cancer?
I had cancer. I had breast cancer. And I did get the message very clearly to get the tumor out.
Yeah.
But after that, in meditation, it was clear that I was done with that.
Thank you.
I was done with that cancer, and that represented all those cells that were now retired.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to go anywhere else because I was getting rid of all the baggage, and it all landed in my breast, and I got it out, or the surgeon helped. But after that, the doctors still don't know quite what to say, but it worked. It all worked.
Yeah. Thank you.
And
I'll talk about this too a little bit. See, I'm from medical field, and I don't want to say something negative about medical field either, but the truth of the matter is that medicine is an industry, and it is the single largest industry in the whole world, and it needs to sustain itself. And so what it teaches constantly is, if you will hear this, once a cancer patient, always a cancer patient. Once a depressed person, always depressed. Once an addict, always an addict. Once a hypertensive, always hypertensive. Once a heart patient, always heart patient. Yeah, that's how they try to perpetuate that. And I'm guilty of that myself in the field of medicine, and I constantly tell my medical students to not, or even residents, to not look at patients as, oh, this is a lap chole, yeah, lap cholecystectomy, or this is a hypertensive patient, or it's a heart patient. This is a human being who has a heart condition. That's a different thing. Now what happens is it constantly sends messages to people that, oh, you are a cancer patient, you will always be cancer patient, you'll die with cancer. So what it creates is a lot of fear. Now because of fear, you will then be very agreeable to whatever I tell you. So now I have you in control. So I'll tell you, or I get this surgery, so I'll earn few $1,000s there. Then I'll tell you, then you need to get chemotherapy, so I'll get several thousand there. Then of course radiation therapy too. Yeah, and every 6 months after that you have to get yourself checked with all these MRIs and scans. And then even when you're cured, it can come back, because you see, cancer comes back, you see. So please, every 6 months I need you to come for scans, so I earn money out of you. That is the whole concept of medicine. And because of that, now even the belief has pervaded so intensely into human beings' lives that they feel that they can never come out and they're trapped. Yeah?
The best thing was I didn't have insurance at the time.
Cool, yeah, see?
That was the best thing, because I didn't have the money to do everything they wanted me to do, so I kept going to the meditation center.
See, great. See, that was a blessing. Oh, I can tell you so many things. I can tell you. See, one of the biggest things in America, which they're finding also in research, is disability insurance or disability. Yeah, and so we are paid to proclaim ourselves as disabled. Yeah, whereas no other country allows that. If you go to India, if you're disabled, you're out of the society. Yeah. So if you will have a person with their hands and legs cut off, will still try to do something to make a living. Here, often you'll see, oh, I'm disabled. Disabled with what? Oh, just disabled. Right? And then you'll see them driving a car, you'll see them play poker and this and that and everything. Yeah, they will be traveling, they'll have a lot of fun. Yeah, so, and what they found was, say somebody had a fall at work. And say one of them was able to get disability money, and the other was not able to. They found the person who was able to get, they have longer duration of pain and incapacity. Yeah, whereas the other one who were not able to were forced to go back to work. Their pain disappeared, and they were able to take care of their life business much better. You see?
It's perfect.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can I ask you how, as a doctor, how does that affect how you relate to your patients? If there's a diagnosis of whatever, I don't know what your field is, but let's say you have a diagnosis that all the instruments and everything that you use to diagnose tells you this is a sick person.
Sure.
How would you interact with them in
See,
a way?
what we have now learned, and this is where I want to go. See, with the quantum field, we are all energy, infinite possibilities. But also in the quantum field, we are not just connected to each other, we are connected to the highest consciousness as well, the universal consciousness, God. Now, from God's point of view, how do we look? God, how does He see us?
Beautiful.
As beautiful, as healthy, as loving, as perfect. Yeah, now we translate how God looks at all of us as our vision for others as well as our souls. See how that changes now. So if I'm looking at a patient and I'm seeing this as a totally hopeless case, that's what the patient is going to manifest as. Instead of that, if I see that as a soul, as a pure consciousness who has infinite capacity to heal, that soul, then I give that soul the energy, and the soul manifests that energy as a reality for himself. I can feel that. In any case, I can at least give that energy to the soul. How am I seeing that person? Am I seeing that person as body, which we call in Raj Yoga as body consciousness, or soul consciousness? Again, it is my perception. I can see that soul as infinite shades between soul consciousness and body consciousness. And that's what is going to manifest for that person. That's going to manifest for me, that's going to manifest for the other person too. So if I see the other person as pure, healthy, complete, whole, full, that becomes a reality for that person. Yeah. You know, no, so many times I'm telling you practically too in families, people say, you know, so many people come to me and say, oh, that person is so toxic. My husband, oh my gosh. Yeah. The people are, okay, people are looking down, huh? And I'm sure, yes. But that's what so many people, oh my wife, oh my God.
My kids.
Oh my kids, oh my grandma, oh my this, oh my that, oh my boss. Yeah. What are we doing? We are looking at that soul as that. We are creating that reality for that person. That person behaves either toxic or negative or whatever. So in other words, what quantum physics now, with all this understanding, yeah, I hope I didn't lose you into the science, right? But hopefully this now brings us to this understanding that we are responsible for how we manifest our reality as well as how we create reality for others around us to manifest. Yeah? Agreed?
Yep.
I was just thinking that a doctor has a lot of power to create a placebo effect.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people will go to the doctor because they can't manage their health anymore.
Sure.
They feel like my health is out of my control. And if the doctor says to them, you're fine, you know, in a week you're going to be completely healthy,
Yeah.
then because we've given so much power to the doctor,
Yeah.
a lot of times that happens. I used to go to a chiropractor, and every single time I went, and I know because I understood positive thinking at the
Right.
time, he would use it on me, and I was aware that he was using it on me, but it still worked. He would just say, you know, I understand that you're feeling this now, but in a week you're going to be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And I was always perfectly fine, and I know he told that to all of his patients.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good doctor.
Yeah.
Good doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can leave it at this physical level, which is great, but you can take it to the highest level. See each one as a pure, perfect, complete, whole beings of light, children of God. Yeah.
Here comes
That-
spiritual thinking.
Yeah. Manifesting.
Spiritual thinking, that brings all these things.
Yeah.
In my case, I had a heart attack 25 years ago. The stent was put. And doctor told me to take some medicines for BP and other things and all that. And don't think of this. 25 years gone. I've never had anything.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is our thinking. If you keep your mind in a positive way, positive thinking that I can do this. it's perfect.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say, that not just positive, take it to the extreme,
Yeah, but spiritual.
the highest level possible. You have the capacity to be whoever you want to be right now. End of the story. Yeah? Shall we do some meditation to top it off?
Yes.
Yeah? It's 7:21. Yeah? Right on time. Yeah. One of the things that I have done over years is never talk over the time. Yeah, never. I always will stop before.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody's ready for a little bit of meditation. We can have some gentle music, maybe, if we can.
Do you have music? Can you play
You know what? I can
music?
play
It doesn't
on
have to be loud.
What?
Because you pick some.
Yeah, he's
Where
free.
does diseased organ fit in with quantum field? Good question. For example, there's a tumor in the breast or in the. How do you translate it in the quantum field? How did the perfect alignment and everything get distorted? Or what happened? How do you explain a diseased state?
Do we?
Say cardiac irregularity, any of those.
How about? Does the tumor even exist? Yeah. If this is this doesn't exist, then doesn't
But
tumor
you
even
wouldn't
exist?
say that if somebody came to you with an
Well, I can't,
obstructed
yes, of course, but
tumor
I'm
in
sitting
colon.
here, we have already talked about quantum physics, we have talked about the understanding that matter doesn't even exist. Yeah, so does it really matter? Tumor doesn't even exist.
So then, if there's an obstructing tumor in the colon, you would remove it because it doesn't
No,
exist.
so yeah, so see, the one thing is, we are now talking at a different level from how we would interact with a patient really, because the patient is also not at our level. Unless we sit with the patient and help him understand, the reality has to really come from that person. We will help that person understand that reality. We try to manifest reality for that person, but that person has to experience reality for himself truly at the end. You see? So what I'm telling is really for your own healing, first of all. Yeah, for understanding where do you stand in this universe. If you think yourself to be this body, you manifest yourself as body. That becomes your reality. If you see yourself as a soul, you manifest yourself as a soul. If you see yourself as a good person, you manifest as a good person. You see yourself as a bad person, you manifest. You see your organ as healthy, your organ also begins to manifest itself in a healthy way. You see your organ diseased, the organ manifests itself in a diseased way.
You're not suggesting that if we told them that you see something on the x-ray and whether it's really there or not, you tell them you're okay.
Yeah, that's what
Do
Michelle
you
just
think-
said, right?
No, but she did have surgery.
No, Michelle was talking about the chiropractor. She went to the chiropractor and he would say,
pain. I understand when you say a structure is there or not there,
yeah.
but she's talking about she had a lot of pain. I'm talking about in practical. Let's say if I was a practicing doctor, would I, whether I see a nodule on the lung or I see irregular heartbeat, I tell them it's okay. Really positively.
But do you believe, what do you believe at that moment? Whether that person is suffering from something malignant or is just something benign? It depends on what you have learned, right? But
So
what
if
you
I
have learned...
if I have learned that this is something that I have been indoctrinated to think can lead to major problems or fatality or whatever, and I tell them that, but I say think positive.
No, but you think of it. You have been indoctrinated to think this way. How do you know that is the truth?
That is all the truth I know.
Correct. Which may or may not be truth.
Which
That's
may or
what
may not be.
that's what I'm trying to
But
get
for
at.
practical matter, that person,
Correct.
if we didn't give them a shot with ventricular fib or something, will die. Now we can say that death is also a perception.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know,
Yeah.
whether we are alive or dead right now, we don't know.
Yeah.
It could be all ghosts.
Yeah, we could also get yeah. So true. Yeah. Yeah. See, what your question is beautiful, and
No, I
I appreciate you.
You're practicing which specialty?
Anesthesiologist. I'm a cardiac
Anesthesia.
anesthesiologist. Yeah.
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 You're not going to tell the person that you're not going to feel any pain now that the person's going to have a breast tumor removed or something. You're going to give something.
But we do that. We do that. I mean,
You
now
do complimentary or soul?
No, it depends on how we are doing this, and depends on where that other person is. At small levels, we are doing it anyways.
Yes.
So then the patient is very scared and say, "It'll be all right. Don't worry." You know, sometimes I say, "I'm the most senior person here. I'm the best you could ever get. So don't worry, it'll all be okay." Yeah. So
You're
so
not
I'm-
feeling any pain.
Yeah, and so
You're not feeling
then the person is like, "Oh, I got the best cardiac anesthesiologist. It'll all be okay," and it's all okay. You see what I'm saying? It's up to you how you say things to people and what you're saying. But in a way, you first have to understand where you are at. Just for example, since this discussion is happening, one of the things I talk about death, I gave you that also topic, right? Or talk about death, dying and going beyond. And For a long time, I was so afraid of death myself, so afraid of death that I could not handle death of my patients. And I realized that I had to fix that for myself. And there's a time now that I have actually been able to work on myself to a very major extent, and someday I'll explain about all this, to the extent that I honestly don't have fear of pain, of death. And you might think it's hypothetical, but that's the truth. That's the truth. And so now, when I talk to the patients, I find that when, say, they're coming with that fear of death, because of my fear of death has already been totally obliterated, or totally processed, I am able to allay their fear of death because of how I believe or how I perceive. So when we perceive that this person is going to die of this, we are transferring our energy to that person, and that person starts to believe, I'm going to die. When we start perceiving this as it's going to be okay, what's the big deal? Yeah? This blockage doesn't really exist, it's okay, nothing will happen. In a way, we are transmitting that energy. We may not be able to say that in so many words, because of course we are in the constraints of that medicine, yeah? But how we are perceiving it, oh, you're going to die, versus, oh, you're going to be all right. That's the energy that the soul starts to perceive from us. Is that making sense now? Yeah, to some extent. Yeah. All right. Yeah, but beautiful question. Yeah, beautiful question, right? Yeah. There are practical aspects to it, but first, at least, hopefully, I got the ball rolling. I got, something for you all to think about.
So one more thing.
Okay.
You said God in the quantum explanation. Where does that exist? In continuation with this quantum field? Or is it like, how do you define God? Where does God fit?
God is energy.
God
and we are all energy.
And we are all field of energy. So then the concept of God is just what this unified field is.
Yeah.
There is no
structured God.
No, there's no structured God. We know that as energy, but it's not. It's just sum total of all these energies.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Yeah, each energy, me as energy, is distinct from you as energy. But we are connected.
We are all connected.
Yeah. So if
where does the idea of God?
Yeah, so God is also energy, and we are connected to God too. It's like all the houses in this neighborhood are connected, but each house is distinct. Yeah, we are not one house.
God?
God is also in the quantum field. No, it's where. So it's like, to understand it is non-local. As soon as you understand, like for example,
that's what I'm saying.
For example, where is your mind? Who can say? Is the mind here? Is the mind here? Is the mind here? Mind is non-local. Why? Because it all enters into the quantum field, the metaphysical field, where there are no x, y, and z coordinates.
So then there is no word like God, actually.
Why not?
Either it's all God.
No, but not necessarily. I like your question. But you understand, I'm saying energy, yeah? A drop of energy, say, if I say, there are 10 drops of energy, each drop is distinct from the other. Yeah? And God is also a drop of energy. Why wouldn't God not exist? Why would you question God not existing based on that we are all energies?
No, I mean, where is the need for God in there, I'm saying? There's the need for having that a separate entity as God.
Why not? I mean, it's up to us whether we want to believe that or not, but to be able to connect to the highest consciousness of the universe. Yeah? Highest consciousness.
Question of faith. You believe in you are a soul. If you believe you are a soul, then
but that soul is energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and God is energy.
There is a supreme soul,
which we
Well,
believe. That is
the
a
thing,
that,
that's
that
the
is a
question.
belief. That is a
Supreme
belief.
soul.
So she is asking, I think, where, I mean, we are all here, but where is God? God is also with us?
So we are here physically,
No,
but
No, not
Yeah,
physically, on the, in that,
No, not where in location,
yeah, in location.
where in the scheme of quantum.
yeah.
Then it just seems like
What's the purpose?
we are all omnipotent particles,
Mhm.
as you say, infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
They can transition or superimpose
Sure.
what you call.
Yes,
They
yes.
can- all of that. And
I-
that by definition then is
Yeah.
God.
Very nice. Thank you. So in a way, we have been created. We are in a way images of God, but we are not gods. When you look at yourself in the mirror, your image is not you. It's your image, but it's not you. We are similar to God. We hold the same qualities as God, but we are not gods. The image of God, your image, cannot really be you. Between you and the image, it is you versus the image. The image can never be equal to you. Yeah? We can never be equal to God.
So
We are
is it
images
not
of
one
God.
of the infinite possibilities that
Yeah.
we could be God as well?
We could be as good as God, but
As
we
good as
cannot be completely God. Yeah? That's it. So just like if the mirror is perfectly clean, the image will look exactly like you, but will never be you still. When there is a little bit of dust, it will be less. If there is more distortion because of more, the image will look less as you. Your image can only look as good as you, but can never become you. We can become as good as God, but we can never become God. Helpful to some extent. Yeah, this debate is wonderful. Thank you for these beautiful questions. I truly appreciate these questions. I truly appreciate everybody's interactions. I thought you wanted to say something. No, for a moment I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, there's, in the writings, in Hebrew writings, it says this, and the Father or the Creator's name is in 4 letters, and it's Yod-Heh-Vav. And it says, in the writings, it says, I am Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, I'm Yehovah, there is none else. Semicolon. I created this and I created that, but he says it again. I, Yehovah, I am Yehovah, there is none else. And what he's saying is, and this, in my mind, and I'm not saying that this is the truth, this is what I believe today, is that if we put all matter, all energy, all people in this circle, and let's say that this is God, okay, can Norm be over here? Because if Norm is outside of God, how there's a possibility I could be God, and I don't think that's possible. And I think that writing says, I am Yehovah, there is nothing else. Everything is me. And I think it's blasphemous to me today to say that I can be outside of that and that I'm not part of him. It's just like, look at this. This is my hand, my fingers, okay? But are these fingers separate from that? No, I'm part of that. The fingers aren't separate. It may look like that when I cover it, but it can't be because it's all energy. It's all, the quantum energy is just, it just is. So when people say, who are you? I could say, I am. Do you see me? I am. I always will be.
Yeah,
You cannot smash matter and it not exist because it breaks down into something else. So.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, wonderful. So shall we do some meditation experience? I know you might be wanting to go. Yeah. But honestly, I enjoyed myself. I don't know if you enjoyed as much as I enjoyed. Thank you. So let's relax. Take a deep breath. Feel for a moment that there are two dimensions of your existence. One is the physical dimension that you're so familiar with. In this dimension is your body that you see in the mirror, the name, the relationships, the people, your possessions, your position in the society, the roles you play, so on and so forth. And then feel as if there's this glass partition, and on the other side of it is your quantum existence, the metaphysical existence. It's the space where you can be anyone and whatever you want to be. In this space, you exist as infinite possibilities. In this space, you exist as infinite potential. As pure consciousness, as endless energy. In this space, there's no time, there's no distance. In this space, there's no matter. Just infinite potential. Step into this space and experience it for yourself. How it feels to be infinite. You are a wave of infinite possibilities. In this space, the choice you make becomes your reality in the physical world. This wave of infinite possibilities and probabilities collapses into one reality that you choose for yourself. So right now I invite you to make a choice. Choose for yourself who you want to be. The kindest, the most loving, the most benevolent, the most generous, the purest, the most peaceful, the happiest, the most compassionate, the most loving, the most angelic person you have ever known. How about that? And you can add the healthiest, the most productive, the most successful. Your best, the best of the best. Choose that possibility right now. In this space, there are no constraints. You have 100% freedom to choose who you want to be. So feel free to choose. And you are responsible once you make that choice. And now see in the physical world the manifestation of the choice you made into quantum field. See yourself truly manifesting as the kindest, most benevolent, most compassionate human being you have ever known. See how your interactions are with the world. See how people are looking at you. As if an image of God has arrived. That's how people are looking at you. Because that's what you have manifested for them and for yourself. Hold this thought, hold this understanding as we end this session now and as you leave, that you have the choice in the quantum field to be whoever and whatever you want to be. And whatever choice you make will then manifest itself as your reality in this physical world. Om Shanti. Thank you.